Thank you.
Investors backing away from gold, as you just saw, safe haven, after the Fed chief said he had the tools to add fast cash into the economy if needed, but had no immediate plans to act. My next guest says the U.S. economy will ultimately get the needed stimulus. It's just a matter of time. Peter Schiff, Euro Pacific Capital CEO and Chief Global Strategist and author of The Real Crash, America's Coming Bankruptcy, joins me now. Peter, it's great to see you. It's been a little while since I've had the opportunity to talk to you, so thanks for coming on. You just heard Phil Flynn use the term a triple crown of stimulus. That's got to be outrageous for you to hear. What do you think?
Unfortunately, we're not going to win any races with stimulus, but QE3 is coming. I mean, Ben Bernanke said nothing in that testimony to change my opinion on that. In fact, he validated it. He said if the U.S. economy needs it, he's going to do what it takes. And, of course, we are going back to recession. I don't think we really need stimulus, but that's all Ben Bernanke knows. So it is coming.
What are our alternatives,
if you listen to what
stimulus?
He told,
how would you see the economy unfolding then without stimulus from here?
Well, without stimulus, we're going to have the recession that we need in order to restructure the economy. All the stimulus does is prevent that restructuring, and so we never have a genuine recovery. We just get a stimulus-induced high, and every time it wears off, we need more stimulus to maintain the high. But here's the point I want to make. And this is what really should be the news from what he said. Jim DeMint asked a very poignant question to Ben Bernanke. Maybe he was reading my book, because this is basically the thesis of The Real Crash. Jim DeMint said that Ben Bernanke was aiding and abetting Congress, that he was enabling the big deficits by keeping interest rates artificially low, but he was luring us into a trap because eventually interest rates are going to rise and we're not going to be able to afford to make the payments on the national debt. And then Ben Bernanke basically flat out lied. And in fact, he couldn't even restrain the laughter because it was such a lie. He basically told Jim DeMint not to worry, that the interest rates could only go up to 1%. And even if they went all the way up to 1%, it would only add $100 billion a year to the deficit. I mean, 1% is still artificially low rates. That was the lowest rates we got under Greenspan. 1%. What about 5%? And they're even going higher than that. But even by the Fed chairman's math, that adds $500 billion a year to the cost of financing the deficit. Right. That's the fiscal cliff, not the fact that we might cut spending a little bit at the end of the year or raise taxes. The fiscal cliff is when interest rates go up, we can no more afford our bonds than Greece can afford its.
That's true. And you make a point in your latest research, right, that the U.S. kind of gets a pass on that kind of stuff, right, while Greece doesn't. And we're in a lot of ways a much tougher fiscal situation than Greece.
Oh, look, yeah, I heard a commentator make a point earlier this morning saying that, hey, Greece is actually in much worse shape than we know, because if you look at their unfunded liabilities, their real debt to GDP is something like 450%. Well, if you look at America's unfunded liabilities, our debt to GDP is more than twice as high as Greece's. So, everybody is worried about the debt in Europe, but no one seems to be worried about the debt in America. And if you think Ben Bernanke took QE3 off the table yesterday, imagine how much money he's going to have to print to keep interest rates at 1% indefinitely. Because basically that's what Ben Bernanke said. He said we don't have to worry about the enormity of the national debt because we'll be able to finance it at 1% in perpetuity. So think about that. And of course we can't do it because he would destroy the dollar, we'd have runaway inflation, and he would be forced to raise interest rates, and then we would have no choice but to restructure and default.
Another point of view from Peter Schiff. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, Fed Chief Ben Bernanke says home